George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation. We continue our trip down memory lane with Inspiration for the Nation at its best. Our next guest is Dr. Steve Perry, a best-selling author, educator, founder, and head of schools at Capital Preparatory Schools based in Hartford, Connecticut. Well, he's been on every show, and he's been on our show, a good friend of the program. And his messages then and now continue to resonate. Let's check in now with Dr. Steve Perry. George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation. We're talking with Dr. Steve Perry, as always, a friend of the program. And Steve, you're, I guess I should call you an educational activist. Education matters, right? I know we're in a Black Lives Matter movement. I loved one of your tweets where you said that, well, if Black Lives Matter, let's start to focus on the schools where 90% of our children are failing. I love that.
Yeah, because we're at a point where we have a nice slogan. People keep asking me, so what do you think of the Black Lives Matter movement? And my answer is, I don't know what it's moved.
Yeah.
You know, if we're going to move something, be disruptive, make an impact. But to just talk about it, to just hashtag it, ain't a movement. So if y'all want to move something, move our children out of some of the worst schools in the United States of America. I say some, right? I'm being polite. The worst schools in the United States of America. You know, I spoke in Rochester. We have a school in Bridgeport, Connecticut. We're going to have schools in Harlem. And in each of these communities,
Wait. So you're opening up a school in Rochester? I know you spoke in Rochester, but are you going to?
Spoke.
Oh, spoke. Okay, yeah.
Spoke.
Mm-hmm.
And in each of these communities, African American children are performing at the very bottom.
Yeah.
And you know, in Rochester in particular, less than 20% of the children were reading, writing, and doing math on grade level, on some grades. That's unconscionable. In Bridgeport, which is the wealthiest county in America.
There's a Fairfield County?
Yeah. You're talking about 95% of the third graders are reading, writing, and doing math below grade level. 95%. Brother, come on, man.
So Steve, what is the impact then? Because we just had a study in Syracuse, New York, was named one of the number one poverty per capita for Black and Hispanic students in the nation, right? The nation, not just around the corner, but in the nation. So given a community of this size, a mid-sized city with a population of 145,000, a metro area about 500,000 or so, so we see the impact. Is poverty, I guess I'm getting to, is poverty the driving force here? And I want you to deal with that because in the obviously, okay. Talk to me about that because the perception would be that because Janesville, DeWitt, these are the suburban schools. Fayetteville, Manly is, Baldwinsville, Liverpool, Casanova, Skaneateles, because those schools, CBA, if you will, because those schools are quote unquote advantaged over the city schools.
No, brother. No.
Talk to me. All right.
No.
Break it down for me, brother.
Consider it broke.
Yeah, because we're talking about public schools. These are all public schools except for one.
Yeah. The number two school in the state of Connecticut is a 80% poor, 99% Black and Latino charter school in New Haven, no less. Number two in the state of Connecticut is a Black school with poor children in it. The reason why our schools are failing is not the poverty of the pocket, it's the poverty of the mind. It's the new racism. We use racism poverty as a placeholder for the same racist notions that we used before and that were used upon us. If we truly believe that poverty is insurmountable, then why don't we just pack it all in and call it a year? Let's just send the kids to prison or shoot them or whatever we want to do to poor kids. If that's how we truly feel.
But Steve, you don't diminish the impact though of unequal access to resources, right? In one school, you got the iPads and all of that, and
I absolutely do.
Right?
It's not diminishing it. I'm telling you what it is.
Okay.
I'm not diminishing it, meaning that it has a value, and I'm limiting the value. I'm saying that there's absolutely no evidence at all that a child's economic circumstances determine their capacity to learn.
Okay. But
the performance, but let me take it 1 second.
Right.
And then when you hear people talk about the resources, if money were the issue, if money were the deal breaker,
alone,
the amount of money spent on the child were the deal breaker, then prison would be the best place to send children.
Right.
Because we spend more money on sending them to prison than we do some of the top colleges in America. So it's not money. It's the quality of instruction, meaning how good your teachers are. It really does come down to that. See, because on one hand, teachers' unions want to talk about the viability and value that teachers add. Okay, we agree. So then if you accept that as the basic premise, then you also have to accept when the children are not performing well, it also has to fall squarely in the laps of the people who are responsible for teaching them. Period. We get children when they're 3 and 4 years old, and you'll hear people say, well, there are 32 million less words. Well, teach them the other words. You have them for 6-8 hours a day. What are you doing?
Well, check this out. All right, let me. I got to put one more needle into this. Because what's really happening? Okay, so the quality of instruction. Here's what the teachers in Syracuse, New York, one city in particular, are saying. They are saying that yes, if I could just get Johnny to sit his behind down for a minute,
write a better lesson plan. Write a better lesson plan.
Well, hold on. Okay. All right. I got a lesson plan, but if Johnny acts up, I don't have support down the hall because they're not going to get Johnny out that room. So
I'll say this.
All right.
I'll say this to that.
Because you see what's happening here. They've got a discipline issue that's unresolved, and they're not suspending kids. Right? They're not suspending the kid. I'm just giving you because the teachers are listening to me, and they want to know what's Steve going to say about that.
They're excuses. We just opened a school in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Every other high school in Bridgeport, Connecticut has a metal detector, and they go through every single child's bag when they come in. We open a school up grades 6 to 12. We ain't got no metal detector. Got no pat downs. We have me and our colleagues at the front door shaking children's hands saying, welcome, son. Nice to see you. Welcome back, young lady. Hey, beautiful. Nice to see you. Nobody pat nobody down. When the adults run the building, the children respond. That's the problem. Why isn't it ever – why do you never hear people call themselves educators ever saying, you know what, I could probably be better at something? How is it they always have something somewhere else to blame it on? They can always say, it's poverty, it's the parents, it's the system, it's racism, it's always – how about you? What are you doing? How uncomfortable must it be to live in a place where you're always the victim? You're a middle-class, highly educated victim.
But
these children in the meantime.
All right, but hold on, Doc. Wait a minute. I gotta talk for them, and then you gotta tell me what the issue, how they resolve this. They have an issue with they got a no suspension policy here right now. They don't care what's happening in the building. You're not sending that kid out the classroom. So they have an ineffective system, and the superintendent probably mad at me for saying it, but this is the truth.
No, that's stupid.
But they're not suspended. They don't, because we had a decree about too many kids being suspension for whatever.
This is what happens. See, what happens is principals and teachers suspend every black kid they can get their hands on.
That's true.
Black boy.
Right.
Every time a black boy sneezes, y'all throwing his behind out of class. So then the system seizes and it says, no. Now I'm not going to send anybody out.
Right.
Now, it was wrong for you to send everybody out. It's wrong for them to say nobody can get sent out. That's just dumb. What has to happen is at some point, the people in the classroom, in the building, have to start saying, you know what, I probably could write a better lesson plan. I probably could put an objective on the board. I could come more energized. I could do better. I could do better. I could. Anytime our schools don't do well, I have to look at myself first. I can't say, well, man, we got all these poor black kids.
Right.
We in Harlem. You know, nobody here loves education. Well, how stupid would I sound?
Yeah, you would sound stupid, especially in New York City where they got access to everything.
Well, it's not just that, though. The point is that there are countries that don't spend as much money as we do and beat us.
Yeah.
And so it's not money. And we can't keep – we have to stop allowing – brother, I tell you, you and I have been together a long time.
Long time.
We have to stop allowing people to use poverty as a proxy for race. That's what they're doing.
Oh, okay.
Be clear.
Okay.
When they're talking about not talking about them or Indian kids. They're talking about your kids, bro. They're talking about black kids. Don't get it twisted. When they're talking about poor kids in Syracuse, they talking about white kids. They're talking about poor black and Latino kids. Be clear.
Well, and then you add to the mix the recent immigrants. But see, the teachers are saying this. You want me to come energized when I'm getting beat down, I'm getting struck by children, and then I can't get I'm ringing the bell for the guy to come get little Johnny out the room. They break out in a fight. I can't break the fight up because they don't want me to touch nobody. Talk to me. How are they going to do a better plan in that situation?
I've spent 20-plus years working in everything from juvenile detention to probation to homeless shelters to urban schools. Never set foot at a work day in a suburban school.
Okay.
Ain't nobody ever hit me.
Mm.
Kids ain't coming at me like that. When you treat kids with respect, one of the best groups to teach people how to discipline children, believe it or not, is the Fruits of Islam.
Go ahead.
FOI does an amazing job of being polite and clear and expressing authority in such a way that it both uplifts the person but clarifies that somebody's in charge. You've been to a party when the FOI is in charge, right?
Yes, I have.
And right? You understand?
You understand what's up?
Right. Okay. So as long as we're clear, they said, "Brother, you mind if I check your bag?" What you gonna say? No.
Right. He does. Right. Yeah. All right. Because if you go to see Farrakhan, or if you go to any of that, you know what's gonna. We're talking with Dr. Steve Perry, by the way. We're talking about fixing what's broke. Right. We're talking about education. Dr. Steve just opened up recently a charter school in Harlem, right? Open now?
Well, the one in Harlem is opening in the summer, and the one in Bridgeport just opened.
Just opened. So a couple of new charter schools.
905 children applied this year before they even knew the address of the building. The first children to see the inside of the building, the first time they saw the inside of the building was on the first day of school. That just shows how hungry our community is. 905. We only had 250 seats.
Right,
we have a 700-child waiting list.
So what, again, because I want people, parents, community, teachers, leaders, the school board, the Board of Education. We got a brother, actually, who is going to be on the school board. He can probably bring some of the FOI in here.
Color don't make him a brother. Collard greens don't make him a brother.
I know that's right. but he is a brother. This particular. So I'm just wondering what's the message then to the rest of us, because we are. Wait, let me tell you what's happening. Let me tell you what's happening, Steve. Just like there's 900 people before you even open the door, those who can are making different choices in terms, like teachers don't have to have their kids in the Syracuse school district.
Ain't that funny?
Isn't that funny? They don't have to. They don't have to.
But they will fight to make sure our schools stay open.
Right.
It ain't your school till your child is in it. It's your job.
Right. It's your job. But see, here's what they will tell you. Thank God I have the choice. I'm telling the truth over here today. Listen, don't call me and say, why you telling our business? They love the fact that they have the option to live where they want to live and send their kids where they want to send.
And take a very good living from Syracuse public schools back to the suburbs and either pay to send their child to a private school or lavish in the fact that, you know what, my kid goes to a good school. My child is white, my child is black, but whatever they are, they get the benefit. See, one of the problems that we're faced with, these are the problems, we're going to talk about solutions in a second. The problem that we're faced with is that the people too often who work in the schools see the children as those kids as opposed to our kids.
Right.
Your kids, you're going to treat them differently. It's just a difference. Not everybody can do it. Look, everybody's not that way. Everybody's not committed to our kids. And too many of them are making excuses for their own ineptitude. Just because you have a job doesn't mean you're good at it. It doesn't mean that. I could tell if you're good at your job based upon the data. The data will show me whether or not you're good. It doesn't tell me if you're nice. It doesn't tell me if you're a sweet person. It doesn't tell me if you're pretty. It doesn't tell me if you're ugly. You're overweight, underweight. It doesn't tell me any of that stuff. But it does tell me if you can teach your behind off. It does tell me that. It does tell me if you're a principal who knows how to run a tight school. The numbers don't lie. Jay-Z said, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't.
Two things here. Syracuse, you talked about those kids. So Kunjufu says that one of the factors in the success of black children in particular is loving or treating treating them as if they were your own children with love, or I think that's the way he phrased it.
But I'm gonna say it to you even differently. I don't understand, and I mean this, and I try to avoid getting emotional when I think this. I don't understand how somebody could see a child who comes from freaking squalor, legitimate squalor, gets him or herself up in the morning, gets to school. How do you not fall madly in love with this child? How do you not? What's in your soul that makes you look at them and give them a steely grin? How do you not see a child come to school with his uniform tattered and dirty and not think, you know what, homie, what's your size? And call the daggum uniform company right on the spot and order that boy 2 shirts. How does that happen that you see that child struggling in math? And you know he's struggling, man. You know he is. You know everybody at home told him we ain't good at math. But you know he's a bright kid. You talk to him about other things. How do you not say, you know what, I'm going to stay out there for 20 minutes a day with you. I'm going to do that because you matter.
Wow.
We may have already lost the cure for cancer. HIV/AIDS might have been curable, but for some reason we saw the cure and we didn't see him as the cure. We saw him as a badass kid. And so he never materialized into the person who develops the cure.
Yeah. So I think that's a really compelling point that you make. The other point I wanted to make to the series, we have about 17, 18 schools now under a receivership, which means that you know what that means. The superintendent has the power to make.
And every single person there probably is fighting. It's the test. It's the poverty. Really? You think that's what it is? Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, so we got all of these schools who are under receivership, who must improve. They got 1 year, 2 years, if you will, to improve. That's just about, that's half the schools in the district. Come on now, Steve.
Listen, I'm going to take it one step further. So you're thinking about it in terms of the adults right now. You just told me 2 years. That's that kid's going to be a junior. If it's a high school, the kid's going to be a junior.
That some of them are high school, some of them are middle school, some of them are elementary.
So in middle school, that means they already went through it.
Yeah.
So they're done. So they have another 2 years to play in kids' lives. Fan-freaking-tastic. Awesome. That's great for you. In the 2 years, you became tenured, and this child became uneducated. Awesome. That's fair. That's fair. That's what this country was made on. It's taking the indigent and making it worse for them, while the people who have means continue to improve. These same people will talk about the corporations and the privatization. You know what the privatization is? The individuals who go and collect money off the backs of the poor and don't improve their conditions. That's disgusting. I don't care what your job is. I don't care if you're a preacher, teacher, or principal. Whatever your job is, if you don't improve the lives of the people, and I mean improve them, not you feel good, you tried, but you know you did it. Not because you think so, but because somebody who walks in says, that's better. I got data to prove it. If you're not doing that, then you're stealing from our community. And it's high time that our community gets sick and tired of this and says, stop robbing us. Stop robbing us of our futures. God knows. Imagine how many beautiful Black and Latino children who could have been something amazing. George, listen, you and I know each other a little while. I guarantee you can think of brothers who you grew up with. You like, man, that dude was really smart back when we were younger. That sister, I remember her. She was bright.
Right.
Right? Can't you write it down? I know I can. I can get you a 6 right off the top. I can tell you that story just as quickly as you can say Jackie Robinson. But the fact is that for whatever reason, I got put in an upper bound program and they didn't. So the upper bound program took care of me, and there was no one to take care of them. It wasn't my mother because she didn't know. She had me when she was 16. What did she know? She was in community college when I was in high school. She didn't know. It was too late. All the things are every single book that I have ever read to my children, my own sons. This is me, George. This is me and you talking. Every single book I've ever read to my sons, the first time I read it was as a father. Nobody read to me when I was a child. Nobody. Yet I got a full scholarship to the University of Pennsylvania and got a doctorate. Don't tell me that poor kids can't make it. Don't tell me that they can't.
All right, so what do we do, Steve? Because we're talking with Dr. Steve Perry. I call him Steve because I feel like that's how I know him, like that.
Yeah, sure.
So, we talked. We've identified the problems. We know that in Syracuse there's some problems. I've said to you that the teachers are feeling that they have no support. I'm just telling the truth. They feel like they have no support.
They
feel like,
and they may not.
And they may. And so, what is the solution here? in communities like Syracuse, you're all over the country talking. I just heard you was in Idaho. I'll get to that in a minute. But what was that like, by the way? Idaho, Boise, Idaho.
When I got there, I was in a really nice room, and I saw two brothers, and I said, I'd like to thank y'all for bringing all the black people who are in Idaho out.
I love it. But it just goes to show you that this conversation is not only in big urban centers; it's also in some of our more rural. I mean, Boise.
It's everywhere. Let me just say this to you about Syracuse in particular. You're all you have. You can't. Y'all are far from everybody. You may not feel like it, but the rest of us know you're far. And because of that, in some places you mentioned like in New York, people could live in Connecticut, they could live in New Jersey, they could live in different parts of New York. You know, you could bring talent in from there. But your talent has to be within 20 or 30 miles of the building, which is a limit that you have. So there are solutions. One solution is you have to have universal school choice, which means that you do not have your school assigned based upon your zip code. That's discrimination. Brown versus Board of Education said that in 1954. Why we still are having this conversation is beyond.
I think we have that now. If I'm not mistaken, I think we can choose our schools now. If I'm not mistaken.
So that's the first part. The second part is I believe in vouchers, which means that just because there are traditional public schools doesn't mean those schools are good. You know, if you give me a choice to drink dirty water out of a blue glass or a green glass, you've given me dirty water. So if it's not a viable choice, meaning that if you don't have a legitimate choice, that's what No Child Left Behind was saying. It was saying that if schools don't meet the needs, then children should be able to go somewhere else. So that would mean that you'd also have to replicate success, which specifically means when there is a school that has been successful, whether they be traditional, neighborhood, magnet, charter, what have you, whatever they are, let them open more. Do not hold them back.
Well,
Stop hating on successful operators.
All right, you talking about vouchers, so we're talking about years before that could ever happen here because the unions won't like it.
Look at it. Listen, who's asking them? The unions. Last time I checked, the unions are professional organizations. The citizens are the community. So the way we get there is for the black pastors and Latino pastors and white pastors and imams and rabbis to come together in an ecumenical effort, just like they did, and say, you know what, folks, this ain't cool. We cannot call ourselves Christians, Muslims, and Jewish people. We can't call ourselves people of faith when we're allowing the poorest among us to suffer yet again. Every single religion is headed by someone who on one level or another means teacher. So if they're supposed to be teachers and they understand that the holiest of gifts that they can give is the gift of self, which is enlightenment, which is through learning. So regardless of your faith, y'all got to pour into the streets and start shutting down failed schools. Start opening up successful schools and stop waiting for people to tell you it's going to take a long time to get something done. Because every single day, brother, this is where the tragedy is. Right today, a kid just said in Syracuse, I'm not coming back.
Right.
I'm not coming back.
Right.
I'm not doing it. I'm staying home this weekend. If I come back Monday, I come back. If I don't, I don't.
And
you have no idea what you lost in that child.
All right, but
that child today who said he's not coming back, you have no idea. Only God himself knows what that child's blessings were. And Syracuse will never reap them.
All right, so but the two things you said, I think we have choice. I'm not sure. The voucher's not happening tomorrow. What's next?
A replication of successful models and allowing children to choose even if it's out of the school district. In addition to that, there are specific ways that you could take the most outstanding educators in your schools, because every single school has outstanding educators. Take your most outstanding educators and pipe them essentially into other classrooms and other schools. So let's say George is doing an amazing job teaching algebra at school number 1. Well, you could take George and FaceTime him into another classroom. Say, well, who would do such a stupid thing like that? I don't know, Harvard.
Right, we FaceTime about everything else.
Right. Harvard is doing that. You know, Khan Academy does that, which is they receive 3 million distinct views a month. So we see that online learning can increase the probability of children being successful. Identify the lowest performing educators, the lowest 20%, and remove them. They can't come back. They just can't. If you figure it this way, if each teacher in high school typically has a student load of 125 kids or more, move that number across 100, 200, 300 teachers who are just not getting it done. It doesn't mean that they can't do something great. I have a woman with whom I work, and she's in our central office, and she said, teaching just wasn't for me. The grind of it wasn't for me. And I couldn't blame the kids because I would come in and I just wasn't at my best. I love education, but I'm not a teacher. And who could blame them for her from saying, I don't know if I want to do that anymore.
That's really cool. That she was able to say that, and so y'all found a way for her to transition. But
to do something because she's great with numbers. So sometimes people know how to do something, but they're not very good at transferring that information to somebody else's mind.
Right.
Great teachers are people who take large concepts and break them down into smaller concepts. And brother, people like this. There are people at the station right now. If you wanted to know how to do something, whatever it was, you'd call one of them, right?
Yes, I would.
Person, and when they get to you, they say, "Oh man, you just do it this way." And you think, "No. You sit and they explain to you. You think, "Oh, okay." There are other people who I don't care who they are. You don't want them explaining how to breathe to you.
Man, I love your passion, man. So we've got a couple of things. Find out who's doing it well. Pipe that into the classroom. Universal choice vouchers. I'm putting that over there on that other table. You know why?
I don't put it anywhere. I'm fighting for it.
I know you fighting for it. I got to put it over there on the other side of that table because that ain't happening. I'm talking about stuff we could. I'm talking about stuff we could do this year.
Why can't we do it this year? Tell me one reason why we actually. Why we can't
because you got $11.99 and whoever else it is.
Who's scared of them?
STA. No, I'm not scared of them, but they're not gonna let it happen.
No, who's scared of them? They're the boss of us?
I'm just saying.
There's some sort of cartel. They tell us what to do in our communities.
Listen. You know what else? Because the people who are in leadership are in line with, and so if they want to be there, they better do it. Okay. Well, like I said, I'm looking for something that's going to happen tomorrow. This ain't happening tomorrow.
I don't know about that. I can't be convinced that it's not going to happen.
And your point is, don't give up the struggle before the fight. I got you. But
it's not. That's not just a theoretical slogan. That's what I know.
All right.
Just imagine if I entered my work day. I was going to say tomorrow, but it really is tomorrow because I'm going to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just imagine if I went to school tomorrow, and I looked at this kid who's 5 grade levels behind and say, "Man, you ain't going to read up on grade level no time today."
You wouldn't say that to no kid that you're trying to educate.
Okay, awesome. Then why are we saying that to children who we're trying to educate? Why are we telling them that the escape routes that they need ain't going to open for them today? And then we want them to come in and be optimistic. They're listening to us, George. They're listening to us. God knows they are. You have children in your life. I know you do. And you know like I do. Your kids pick up on everything. And so if you don't believe, they don't believe, no matter what you say.
Right.
You take this child to church every single day. If they know you ain't nothing but a heathen, they don't believe in Christ.
Okay. I'm
saying to you that I know my community, and my community ain't scared. My community are the people who are black, white, and other who look up and say, "All right, so what? Tough? What's that mean? Tough just means it's more fun. It just means that the win is even better."
All right, Dr. Steve Perry. I know that let me say it this way then. If we are as a community serious about changing educational outcomes, then we have to show up to the board meeting like it's scandal on Thursday night. Okay?
Show up and shut it down.
How about that? Because if we heard that some teacher said some kind of racial thing,
man.
that room would be packed.
Let me tell you something. If some teacher went out there and said, "You people," to our kids, oh, God, they'll call all kinds of racism. But let me explain to you what racism really is. Let me tell you what racism really is. Racism is sending black kids into school and expecting them not to learn anything. If y'all don't protest against that, they get to call your kids whatever they want.
Wow. Wait, could you just say that again for people? Because I think you just hit somebody over the head real hard, and they might have missed that. They still feel it. Could you hit them again with that?
If you're concerned about some teacher calling your child something like "you kids" or "these people," if that's what works you up, but you don't get upset about them sending your black, Latino, and poor child into a school and they don't teach your child because they say he can't learn anyway, his mother doesn't want him to learn anyway, his parents don't care about him anyway, simply because of his color, then they can get to, if you don't say anything about it, they get to call your child whatever they want.
Wow.
You ain't protecting your child. You let your child be thrown into the meat grinder. How dare we get offended when somebody calls us a name, but not get offended when they literally rob our child of their humanity by taking education out of their future? You want to create the perfect weapon? Don't put a gun in a child's hand. Take education out of his future.
Dr. Steve Perry, founder of Capital Prep, author, speaker all over the country. It's clear what his passion is and what he's reminding us of what our passion is. If we want our children to be educated, if we want our communities to be educated, then it's up to us to make that difference. And we called some people out today, Doc. You know,
and let me break it down to you real quick like this. Oftentimes you hear politicians say, we don't want to point the finger at anybody. Well, it's either the finger or the fist.
All right.
The finger is you start taking responsibility for what's happening in our community, or the fist is the reality when somebody comes and punches you in the mouth, when somebody comes and robs you, and when somebody makes you afraid to live in your own community. That's the fist. That's the reality of it. I suggest you take the finger. The finger is, you know what? I can do better. Because I know every single day, brother, every single day, you don't have to worry about me. At the end of the day, my youngest son and I pray, or both my sons and I pray before they go to bed. And I ask my youngest son each night, are you better today than you were yesterday? We got to ask ourselves as a community, have we really done right by our kids? Is it just enough to yell at our kids to do their homework when even if they did their homework, they wouldn't be smarter because the homework ain't worth nothing? Is it really enough to yell at our kids to go to school when going to school doesn't teach them anything? Are we really doing right by our kids? Our kids are not stupid. I mean, they're not stupid. They know they're not learning anything. You asked when I was there, right? Many years ago, I said, when your children come home and you ask them what did they learn, what do they say? What do they all say? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here we are, 6, 7, 8, 9 years later, and you telling me 18 schools in receivership. Really? Because the kids been telling y'all that for about 10, 15 years. The kids told y'all. Kids came home and told on everybody. And
right, shame on us because you stood right there and you got people talking about and jumping up and down when you were talking about what they were going to do, and here we are.
All day.
And here we are.
All day.
That tells us.
People ask me to come in and basically, you know what? When I was younger, I used to think I wanted to be an entertainer, but I can't sing and I can't really dance. I mean, I dance well enough to. You could do it. You could wobble and all that, right? You can wave, you can nay and whip, right? You can do all that. I can do all that. I can handle a wedding. You understand what I'm saying? But I ain't gonna be up on stage.
Right.
So back what I am now for some people, just a performer. I come in and they get all riled up, and I tell them, man, this is disgusting, and they see me crying and breaking down and knocking out of my face and everything. Like, wow, that brother's really passionate. And then they go back. And they walk back to their cars and they go back to their lives. And my son, I miss a lot of time with my kids, man. I like my kids like everybody else like their kids. I really do. I think they're cool guys, and I like to get to know them. And since my father wasn't around, I always feel guilty when I'm gone, right? So that being said, why am I coming if all y'all going to do is listen to me and then go home? You didn't need me to do that. The little couple dollars y'all pay me, I'll be all right. I can do all right without that money. We got to start doing. We got to start doing. Our kids deserve it. This is not okay. It's not okay.
It's not okay. You know what? That should be the slogan. It's not okay.
It's not. No bueno.
No bueno. George Kilpatrick, inspiration for the nation with Dr. Steve Perry. Doc, keep doing the work. And you know what? My thinking is something you may have said today might change somebody's perspective, some parent, some teacher, some administrator. Let's be about it because it ain't okay. No bueno. So how much do you think has changed since we first brought that conversation to you? Let us know what you think. What is the state of education today and what is our responsibility? Dr. Steve Perry then says it's no bueno. Where are we today? Hit us up in the comments below or let us know how you feel. State of education today. Should there be different reforms put in place? How do we support educators in the work that they do? And what's our responsibility? Hit me up right here in George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation.